fact, if you subtract mortgage debt from the value of their homes, you get net home equity. And this has actually been declining as a share of total assets. It's gone from 43% down to 35%. And conversely, the ratio of the mortgage debt to the value of the house has increased dramatically, going from 29% to 47%. So, again, just to summarize, we see middle-class income stagnating, largely due to wages stagnating, simply just in order to maintain their consumption standards. What has the middle class been doing? Well, they've been taking out a lot of debt, and so there was a big explosion of debt among the middle class. In my paper, I show that this has not really gone for enhanced consumption, but rather it's really gone just to maintain normal consumption, and it certainly hasn't gone into other assets. In fact, stock holdings of the middle class actually fell from 2001 to 2007. So this was more survival. This debt was for survival. Well, come to 2007, what happens? Well, this just shows what would have happened if house prices fell by 10%. This shows the share of homeowners whose house value would have been less than their outstanding mortgage. House values had fallen by 10%. There would have been 6.3% of homeowners who were so-called underwater. House values fell by 20%. It would have been 13.7%. But in fact, house prices between 2007, this is July 1st, 2009, fell by 23.5%. They're actually down, it's actually down even more today. Now the S&P 500 also tanked over the last, between 2007 and mid-2009, fell by 41%. So all of a sudden, families holding homes, and among the middle class, homes account for about 2/3 of their total assets. You see, they suddenly get hit with a big price reduction in the value of that asset. As a result, according to my projections, mean net worth declined by 17%. But even more striking is that median net worth of the middle class, has fallen by 36%. That's a huge decline in just 2 years. In fact, the average household in 2009 is back where it was in 1992. So the wealth of the middle class has taken a real hit. And correspondingly, there's been a big increase in wealth inequality. This is the Gini coefficient. According to my calculations, it increased from 0.83 almost up to 0.87. That's a huge increase in such a short period of time. Reason, even though stock prices fell more than housing prices, and stocks are mainly held by the rich, still houses as a percentage of total net worth is higher among the middle class than stocks as a percentage of net worth is among the rich. So the price plunge in housing has caused the middle class to lose more wealth in relative terms than the stock plunge caused for the rich. So inequality, wealth inequality, has gone up substantially. Well, the upshot is that, at least my view is that the precipitating factor for the crisis was really the fact that the class warfare was being won by the capitalist class. So this took the form of rising profits, and it also took the form of rising inequality, because the really big increase of inequality is not that clear from this particular graph, but if you go deeper into this data, the really big increase of inequality has occurred among the top 1%, indeed the top 1/10 of 1%, the top 100th of 1%. So the rising profits in the economy has translated into grossly higher income among the rich and the very rich. So the income share of the rich and the very rich has skyrocketed during, well, mainly since 1990, but certainly during the Bush years, you can see how much it's gone up. So what happens? The middle class is being squeezed. It's taking out more mortgage debt. The rich, they can't possibly spend all their additional income, so they have all this additional investable assets. Well, it's a perfect marriage. You have all this new debt being created. You have the rich who are searching for ways to invest their money, and suddenly comes along, this is where Minsky comes in, financial innovation creates these mortgage-backed assets, which then allows the middle class to continue to expand their mortgage debt, and it provides an instrument of investment for the rich. So, so this is why you find, or this is one reason anyway, why you found this big increase of these mortgage-backed assets, because you had both the supply and the demand. And once the housing bubble burst, this is what precipitated the crisis, in my view. Rich holding these assets, the middle class in debt, and the rest is history. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me for this conference. It's nice to be back at the New School. I'm going to present some work which is joint work with my colleagues at the Levy Economics Institute. I'm going to shift the focus of discussion somewhat from the earlier speakers who were discussing the root cause of the crisis and its different aspects. I'm going to talk about in the remaining 15 minutes or so that I have, I'm going to provide an assessment of the employment and distributional outcomes of the Obama stimulus package. My argument in a nutshell is that the package is seriously deficient in terms of meeting the challenges of the grave employment crisis, the grave and enduring employment crisis that this country is in, and addressing the gross maldistribution of income, for which evidence was presented by Ed. This naturally raises the question, what, if anything, can be done to turn things around? And I think it can be done, but I think people who are in charge of economic policy need to think big. They need to think different. And I'll touch upon what I mean by that towards the end of my presentation. Then the next question, naturally, that comes up is that, will it happen? And on that score, I'm pretty pessimistic. It's a political question, as we all know, it's pessimistic. So let me start with the assessment of the ARRA, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, as the stimulus package is formally known. What is shown here is a breakdown of this stimulus. Basically, what I'm trying to do here is to figure out from the amount that was in the legislation, the net injection of aggregate demand, right? So I start with the line at the very top, which is about $800 billion. I make some adjustment for the fact that some of this money is meant to offset expected budget cuts at the state and local level. Take that amount out, that's about 20% of the total. Mainly money for the Medicaid program and for keeping the schools running. Then there are some coverage differences which comes from the fact that I'm translating from the budget categories to national income and product account categories. And then there are timing differences because the estimate of the